We knew there were a few options. If former president, who now is, of course, the president-elect, returned to the White House, there were a few ways that his federal cases could be resolved. One is he said that he would try to fire Jack Smith.
This just in, guys. Special counsel Jack Smith just lost his job, and President-elect Donald Trump hasn't even taken office yet. I guess just too many people woke up and decided we don't want communism in the United States, huh? Seriously, guys, I'm so proud of Americans right now. We got rid of Kamala Harris's toxic brand of Marxism in our country, and now it's just a matter of time for draining the swamp for Donald Trump's presidential inauguration on January 20th. Word on the street is, guys, part of it is the justice system winding down his federal cases finally. But here's a breakdown. Check this out.
Yeah, Chris, it's not a surprise that these cases can't go forward when Donald Trump takes office. What's interesting here is that the DOJ is moving to end them even before he takes office, citing the long-standing DOJ policy that sitting presidents can't be prosecuted. And there was some thought that maybe Special Counsel Jack Smith was going to sprint through the finish line, was going to work up until the last day, force Trump to fire him, wait till a new attorney general was appointed. But that does not appear to be the thinking inside the department. The thinking is that these cases can't go forward. There's no reasonable prospect of getting to trial within the 3 months before Donald Trump takes office. These cases are mired in legal issues that would be appealed all the way to the Supreme Court had Donald Trump lost the election. So now that he's won the election, DOJ officials are thinking that, look, there's just no room to move in these cases. And so the sensible thing to do is to figure out a way to wind them down. And it may.
I mean, seriously, guys, now they're realizing that the sensible thing is to just not go after Trump. I mean, we could have told them way back in 2020 with all these fake cases. But hey, this is what we've been talking about for a long time. I guess it just takes a while for them to really learn anything from the American people, huh? But if I'm being entirely transparent, I'm just glad that all of this crap is finally winding down. And we're not just talking about Jack Smith's case here. Former Attorney General Bill Barr is guessing that it's game over for President-elect Donald Trump's legal battles following his historic victory. Watch this.
Former Attorney General Barr telling Fox Digital, quote, "The American people have rendered their verdict on President Trump and decisively chosen him to lead the country for the next 4 years. They did that with full knowledge of the claims against him by prosecutors around the country. And I think Attorney General Garland and the state prosecutors should respect the people's decision and dismiss the cases against President Trump now." And Bill Barr joins us now. Attorney General Barr, always good to have you with us. You know, we have heard a little bit today from Letitia James, who appears dogged in her pursuit of bringing some sort of justice to former President Trump and the next president of the United States. How do you think this is going to play out with her and with Jack Smith and with President Biden?
I don't think the president really is going to have any legal problems going forward. These cases are not going to go forward, neither the federal cases nor the state cases against the president. So I think it's really a question of how these governments, the federal government, the Justice Department, is going to dismount from the limb it's gotten itself out on. I think all cases are a matter of discretion. There's no rule that says just because you can make a case or think you can make a case or put a case together, you have to pursue it. It's always a question of what's in the best interest of the country. And in these situations, there's no doubt in my mind that the best interests of the country are served by them dismissing the case. They're not going to be able to go forward with it while he's a sitting president, either the federal cases or the state cases, because we don't want these kinds of things distracting the chief executive from dealing with the people's business. And the cases are very weak cases. After they were brought, there were a number of appeals court decisions and Supreme Court decisions that essentially shot at their cases full of Swiss cheese. And they're not compelling cases, and trying to pursue them after the president leaves office would involve years and years of arcane litigation over legal doctrines, because these cases are not meat and potato criminal cases. They're very novel cases. They raise all kinds of constitutional issues. And at the end of the day, the juice is not worth the squeeze as far as the public interest is concerned.
You heard him, guys. The juice is just not worth the squeeze. I just really wish that they would have realized this so much sooner. My uncle says Smith should be made to pay back all the tax money that was wasted on this BS. I mean, think about it, guys. All the millions, maybe even billions of taxpayer money, all going after former President Donald Trump or President-elect Trump. But what do you guys think? Now, one thing is for sure, the whole despicable Lawfare campaign was definitely not a good look on Democrats. Former Scalia and Thomas law clerk Chris Landau, he said it backfired on them massively. Watch.
Again, a 50-50-ish chance that Judge Merchan will impose a prison sentence as opposed to a probation sentence. But even if the judge does hold this sentencing on November 26th, and even if the judge says, I hereby sentence you to X in prison, Donald Trump's not going to serve that time while he's in transition as he is now, or certainly while he's president.
Well, certainly while he's president, leaving open the possibility that, if they're wanting this, they're salivating over this, that somehow the statute of limitations for these absurd cases is paused, and then Trump goes off in an orange jumpsuit after he has a successful second term. This is insanity. Joining me now, Chris Landau, former Supreme Court clerk, former ambassador to Mexico. Chris, we've been covering this, it seems like forever, together. Respond to that, this quixotic dream of still putting Trump in prison.
Listen, the hardcore, that's the way I guess they put themselves to sleep with those dreams of him in an orange jumpsuit. But Laura, I think the good news and the big headline is that Lawfare backfired massively on the Democrats in this election season. This was going to be their magic wand to try to get rid of Donald Trump for once and for all. And if anything, it just made him stronger. And I think it's so healthy for our political system to have Lawfare decisively repudiated in this way.
Oh, Fani Willis got reelected. I didn't even know she was up for reelection, Chris, but apparently she got reelected handily. But the American people, I think in general, they want to determine things at the ballot box. And all of this looked like a giant pile-on from the beginning. Yet there is talk among some of these so-called legal experts on the other networks of pausing the statute of limitations. Is that even possible?
Laura, this is all garbage. I mean, look, again, like these legal experts can talk to each other. I mean, these cases were on life support before Trump won the election. One of the two federal cases had already been thrown out by the judge because Jack Smith's appointment was unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. The other one, the Jack Smith one in Washington, got gutted by the Supreme Court's immunity ruling. Fani Smith's thing in Georgia got gutted by her own improper conduct, not to mention the Supreme Court's immunity ruling. And then you have the Alvin Bragg one in New York, where that sucker is like a target-rich environment for appeal, putting aside the fact that that's also impacted by the Supreme Court's immunity ruling as insofar as some of the evidence that was used there. So putting even aside the election, Laura, these things were going down for the garbage cases that they were, as any serious lawyer would tell you, anybody other than the most fevered partisan.
And guess what, guys? Trump isn't working alone this time. He's got an army beside him, including us. So stay vigilant, you guys. Now, the other side is definitely not going to be taking this loss laying down. Top of the list of people to keep an eye on is special counsel Jack Smith, who seems to have given up for now. So recently, he filed a motion to vacate all deadlines in the 2020 election interference case against President-elect Trump in Washington, D.C. I say for now because the widely expected move technically stops short of dropping the case entirely against him. But that's something to move to the back burner for now, especially with long-standing Department of Justice policy against bringing criminal charges against the sitting president. Plus, even though the case has not been officially dropped, it sure does appear to be moving in that direction. Something to look forward to. Jack Smith said that his team plans to give an updated report on the special or official status of the case against Trump on December 2nd. Is this where he announces that he's out of a job? Remember what Trump promised. He's going to fire Smith within seconds if reelected, and it looks like Smith is doing it for him. You see, Jack Smith was basically an attack dog for Biden's Attorney General Merrick Garland. He was assigned back in 2022 to investigate both the alleged effort by Donald Trump and his allies to overturn the results of the 2020 election, as well as Trump's keeping of allegedly classified documents at his residence in Florida after leaving the White House in 2020. And so now the Justice Department is looking to wind down its criminal cases against Trump in Washington, D.C. and Florida because of their own policy against investigating a sitting president for federal crime charges and their violation of the separation of powers doctrine. Smith indicted Trump in D.C. earlier this year on charges stemming from the president's alleged efforts to overturn the outcome of the 2020 election. He also brought federal charges against Trump in Florida for his handling of classified documents after leaving the White House. And so basically, he was trying to make headlines with this Lawfare campaign against the then former president, now president-elect. Too bad he ended up just getting egg all over his face, right? And while Trump still faces cases in Georgia and New York, former Attorney General Bill Barr said that local prosecutors and judges need to move on from the spectacle of prosecuting the president-elect.
And this is very significant. For those looking at what's the next huge step, you're wondering about Jack Smith. Well, Jack Smith with a big development. The special counsel is in active talks with the Justice Department about how to end his federal prosecutions of President Trump. Now, this is according to a justice official familiar with the discussions. Discussions expected to last several days. But the person breaking this news, of course, is our excellent chief legal affairs correspondent, Paula Reed. Also with me, our senior legal analyst, Ellie Honig. But Paula, look, this has been the huge question hanging all of this over the whole election and now in the aftermath. What are you learning?
So we knew there were a few options. If former president, who now is, of course, the president-elect, returned to the White House, there were a few ways that his federal cases could be resolved. One is he said that he would try to fire Jack Smith. Unclear if he could do that because Smith is not a presidential appointee, but it was expected that his Justice Department would drop these cases. It was clear once he was reelected, he was never going to face trial. But we knew there was another option, and that is that potentially the Biden Justice Department could try to resolve or wind down these cases before Trump takes office. And a lot of this stems from an Office of Legal Counsel, that is a department within the Justice Department that gives advice to lawyers who work there. This memo that talks about prosecutions of a sitting president, and they are looking very closely at that memo to try to determine how does that apply in this case, where you have two pending cases against a president-elect. Can they continue to move forward? Can they take additional steps? Right now, I'm told they are in discussions. Jack Smith talking with top leaders at the Justice Department about exactly what this looks like. I'm told that Jack Smith is someone who understands that he has to follow whatever the rules and regulations of the Justice Department are. So at this point, they are looking for ways to wind this down. I'm told it's unclear when this will happen and what it'll look like.
He warned that further maneuvering on these cases in the weeks ahead would serve no legitimate purpose and only distract the country from the incoming administration from the task at hand. Something we definitely need to watch out for as well. The infamous Judge Juan Merchan from Donald Trump's New York case is expected to announce whether the state will proceed with felony conviction proceedings after Trump in the final months before he takes office, or whether to apply claims of presidential immunity expanded by the Supreme Court earlier this year. Honestly, it's a pick your poison kind of deal at this point already for them. The thing is, they wouldn't have reached this point if they would have just stopped to think about what they're doing in the first place. Going after a former president without really being able to clearly prove that he did anything wrong. You know what I mean, guys? Drop a quick yes in the comments and light up the like button to show your support for President-elect Trump and his victory against all of these federal cases and state cases against him. And while you guys are at it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tap that notification bell for more updates like this sent straight to your phones. And so now it's time for Republicans to turn the tables on the people who waged this Lawfare campaign against President-elect Trump. Now, as early as of now, the House Judiciary Committee is demanding that special counsel Jack Smith and prosecutors involved in the investigations produce to Congress all documents related to the probes before the end of the month. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan and Representative Barry Loudermilk, they wrote a letter to Smith saying that the Committee on the Judiciary is continuing its oversight of the Department of Justice and the Office of Special Counsel. So according to recent public documents, prosecutors in Jack Smith's office have been gaming out legal options in the event that President Donald Trump won the election. They said that with President Donald Trump's decisive victory this week, they're concerned that the Office of Special Counsel may attempt to purge relevant records, communications, and even documents responsive to their numerous requests for information. Jim Jordan and Loudermilk warned that the Office of Special Counsel is not immune from transparency or above accountability for its actions. So yeah, guys, it definitely looks like the shoe is on the other foot now, and it's Smith and the other prosecutors that are now facing investigations. Now, for one, Jim Jordan and Loudermilk are demanding Smith turn over information about the use of FBI personnel on his team and whether any of those FBI employees previously worked on any other matters concerning President Trump. Other requests include one for records relating to Smith and prosecutor Jay Bratt visiting the White House or executive office of the president, a request from September 2023 for records related to lawyer Stanley Woodward, who represented Trump aide Walt Nauta, and a request from December 2023 for communications between Attorney General Merrick Garland and the special counsel's team, and more. Now, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton also submitted a Freedom of Information Act request to the Biden administration's Justice Department, demanding that it provide records relating to special counsel Jack Smith's corruption investigation into President-elect Trump. In a release, the Republican AG alleged that former special counsel Robert Mueller, who led a team investigating Trump regarding a false Trump-Russia election collaboration, destroyed records at the end of their investigations to avoid accountability. Now, according to Paxton, it's not real clear why nobody was prosecuted for doing so. So his request is part of their efforts to ensure that Americans are not cheated out of accountability or information again. He added that this pattern of weaponizing the justice system for partisan retribution, it must end. And for those other channels and mainstream media outlets that are saying that Trump's going to use his DOJ for political purposes, he won't. He just won't. Instead, according to White House attorney Mark Paletta, President-elect Donald Trump will use the DOJ for implementing his agenda. More precisely, he went on to say that the president has a duty to supervise the types of cases the DOJ should focus on and can intervene to direct the DOJ on specific cases. He is the duly elected chief executive, and he has every right to make sure that the executive branch, including the DOJ, is implementing his agenda. Paletta also gave examples of how Trump could use the DOJ during his next term, including directing the DOJ to significantly increase resources to prosecute criminals at the highest charging level, and also to seek maximum sentences, extending resources toward deportation efforts and against sanctuary cities who defy and obstruct federal law enforcement efforts. He also talked about the differences of how Democrats have been using the DOJ versus what Trump's going to be doing with the department. He said that just because you're a political opponent, it does not mean that one gets a free pass if you violated the law. Democrats, on the other hand, went after President Trump solely to punish him because he was a political opponent. And that was it. They invented crimes, twisted statutes, abused their offices and power, all to stop him and destroy him. Now, the president-elect is going to supervise and direct the DOJ to implement his agenda, which was voted on and supported by a landslide majority of the American people on November 5th. And I say amen to that, right, guys? So let me know your thoughts. Do you think Jack Smith and all these other prosecutors like Letitia James, Fani Willis should all be investigated under Trump's incoming DOJ? Drop a quick yes or no in the comments down below, guys. Well, guys, the great wealth transfer is in full effect. And, you know, whether it's Donald Trump that ends up winning the election or if it's Kamala Harris, oh God, we're in a world of a pickle, as my grandfather would say. Our freedoms are being stolen, guys. Credit card companies are out to get us. And if you don't understand the game, well, you end up getting played by the game. Now, if you're anything like me, guys, you know, you were probably out of shape, maybe in debt, living paycheck to paycheck, and just feeling like the system is just completely taking advantage of you. I remember for a long time, I could rarely ever get any time to spend with my wife. And it's kind of funny because where I used to work with a lot of married men. And a lot of those married men would always complain about their spouses as if they really just didn't even like their spouses, which is sounding like a pretty horrible situation. But that was the case for many of them. They didn't like who they were married to. But I was different. Anyway, through trial and error and through a lot of pain, I figured out how to gain freedom and also lose a lot of weight and actually get in shape. And guys, I'm gonna be honest with you, that was a game changer. To no longer be living paycheck to paycheck, figuring out how to get the credit cards to pay me, the power of a strong credit score. I pay thousands of dollars less per year for the same house as my neighbor just because my credit is better than his is. And this is not to brag. I mean, but this is the truth. The banks are literally taking advantage of the poor. It's like the people who can least afford it, they're charging the poor what is like unofficially called a poor tax, or a tax on the poor. I mean, I'm now at a point where, you know, like, number one, I don't pay for credit cards. In fact, credit card companies pay me to use their cards. And I figured out how to build a lifestyle that is just ultimately very, very healthy. I lost a tremendous amount of weight and I put on a lot of muscle. But when I was struggling, I wish I knew people who knew these things. So anyway, I decided to create a community of like-minded people who are also interested, just like me, in living better. So if you guys want to join my community, it's called the Liberty Pursuit Network. It is brand new. Come on over. I'd love to have you guys and join like-minded people. Be positively motivated by others who are also on the same pursuit. So I'm going to leave a link for you guys so you can join me over on the Life Pursuit Network in the description down below this video. So check it out, guys, and let's not be a victim of this great wealth transfer that is taking place right now. We can definitely pick this up again in a future video. Just make sure you're subscribed to the channel, have your notification bell turned on. And while we're working on that, you can go ahead and check out our other videos on the channel. I got loads for you guys. I highly recommend our recent video talking about the breakdown of the left as Donald Trump wins the presidency. Seriously, guys, you got to check that one out after this one. Thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you guys next time.